Hello Key Stage 1 and welcome to your English lesson for today. To start today's lesson, I just wanted to show you what you are going to be learning about over the next 2 weeks. So the aim of this unit of learning is to write a narrative story based on the traditional tale of Little Red Riding Hood. We'll also be focusing on lots of different grammatical features such as using speech marks, apostrophe subsessions, adjectives and writing in the past tense. For the first week, our first lesson is to order the events in a traditional tale. Then tomorrow we are going to be recalling a traditional tale. After that, we'll be identifying past tense verbs in a text. Then we are going to be writing in the past tense. And finally, this week we will be exploring speech marks within a text. Next week, we'll start by writing sentences that include speech. Then we'll be moving on to apostrophe succession. Then we'll be learning to edit your writing by rereading and checking it. Then you'll be editing your writing by improving vocabulary choices. And finally, you will publish your writing. So for lesson 1, you are going to be ordering the events in a traditional tale. You should be able to order the events from the traditional tale in the correct order. Some of you will also be able to remember keywords or phrases from the traditional tale. And some of you will even be able to explain what a traditional tale is and give some examples of these. Each lesson starts with something called retrieval practice, and this is looking at something that the children have already learned but they need to practice a little bit further. So today's starter is looking at curly caterpillar letters and how to form them. With the letters, you always need to make sure that you start on the line and that the writing sits on the line as well. So we always need to do our lead-ins and our lead-outs of each letter. So with this activity, you can practice your letters by just drawing them on a piece of paper, or you can print off our curly caterpillar letters from Letter Join and you can practice on that. If you can't quite remember how to form the letters, you can just watch this video and then pause it when you are ready to do your own writing. If you would like a further challenge, you can write the words at the bottom in the green pen. Those words are dad, dog, sad and fog. And you can see if you can join all of your letters up together. When you have finished practicing your curly caterpillar letters, you can go on to the next slide. So this unit of work is all about traditional tales, and before you can go on to ordering traditional tales, you need to know what one is. So this first activity is a discussion activity, which means you need to talk to your grown-ups about what the answers could be. And the question is, what is a traditional tale? There are lots of pictures on the board that can help you. Please also try to use the sentence starters to make sure you are answering in full sentences. I think a traditional tale is, I think this because, and an example of a traditional tale is. Please pause the video and make sure you discuss the question before you see the answer on the next slide. The answer is that a traditional tale is a story that has been told and retold for many years, and so it becomes a story that almost everyone knows. It's quite a famous story. So the examples that are on the board are Hansel and Gretel, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Jack and the Beanstalk, Little Red Riding Hood, and the Three Little Pigs. For this week and for next week, we are going to be focusing a lot on Little Red Riding Hood. In a moment, I will start reading the story of Little Red Riding Hood, so you will need to show your very best listening. When I have finished the story, there is an ebook available if you would like to read the story to your grown-ups. Okay. Get yourselves comfortable and make sure you're showing your very best listening to the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time there was a little girl called Little Red Riding Hood. She lived with her mother in a village near a forest. One day, Little Red Riding Hood went to visit her grandmother. She took a basket of food with her. On her way, Little Red Riding Hood met a wolf. "Hello," said the wolf. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to visit my grandmother, who lives in the forest," explained Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf ran to Grandmother's house. He went inside, put on a nightgown, and got into her bed. A little later, Little Red Riding Hood came to the house. She knocked on the door, then went inside. Little Red Riding Hood went over to her grandmother's bed. "Oh, Granny, what big ears you have," she said. "All the better to hear you with," answered the wolf. "Oh, Granny, what big eyes you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with," replied the wolf. "Oh, Granny, what big teeth you have," gasped Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to eat you with," replied the wolf. "Help!" shouted Little Red Riding Hood as she realized there was a wolf in her grandmother's bed. She ran out of the house. A woodcutter was nearby. He heard Little Red Riding Hood scream and ran to the house. The woodcutter hit the wolf over the head. The wolf ran away, and Little Red Riding Hood never saw him again. And that is the end of the story. What amazing listening, everyone. So, on the next slide, you will be looking at the main activity, which is to order the events from the story that you've just listened to. This is your activity for today. So on the video, I have lots of different pictures from the Little Red Riding Hood story, and you have to try and put them in the correct order. There are lots of different ways of doing this activity. If you have the printout version available, you can cut and stick in the correct order. If you do not have it available, then you can either discuss it with your grown-ups and tell the story in the correct order, or you can draw the pictures in the correct order as well. An extra challenge for doing this activity is seeing if you can remember any words or phrases from the story and then say these when you are reordering. When you've started the activity, make sure you pause the video because the next slide will be the answers to the story. And here are the answers. Well done if you got them correct. So we start with Little Red Riding Hood by herself. Then it's the basket of food. Then it's Little Red Riding Hood with the wolf. Then it's the wolf going to Grandma's house. Little Red Riding Hood in Grandma's house. Then it's Little Red Riding Hood saying to Grandma what big ears, eyes, and teeth she has. Then Little Red Riding Hood gets scared and runs away. The woodcutter comes to help. And then the wolf is never seen again. Now you have the story in the correct order. What you need to try and do is tell the story of Little Red Riding Hood to a grown-up using only these pictures. Give it a go, and then on the next slide we will see how successful you have been in your learning today. So before we check how successful you have been in your learning today, we have a quick plenary. And this is to see how much of today's lesson you can remember. We've got the events of the story of Little Red Riding Hood on the board, but one key event has been missed out. Can you work out what the missing event is? Well done if you managed to get it right. The missing part of the story was when the wolf went over to Grandmother's house. time for the reflection to see how successful you were in today's lesson. Remember, today you were ordering the events in a traditional tale. Have a think. Could you order the events from the traditional tale and get them in the correct order? Could you also remember key words or phrases and say them when you were reordering? Can you even explain what a traditional tale is? And can you give some examples of these? Tomorrow we will be recalling the traditional tale, and that will be Little Red Riding Hood. So join me again tomorrow and let's see how much of the story you can remember. Have a good day, everyone.